Okay, so I mean, basically, if you've ever wanted to rapidly develop simple or advanced forms in WordPress, or wanted to improve form sign up rates, or wanted to add Groundhog context to a Groundhog using a form plugin, you are in the right place. I actually moved everything on my slides, so it does actually say that there because there was a big Zoom logo on everyone else's video when I was watching them, so I moved myself to the left. Here's what we're going to learn today. So we're going to build a simple and an advanced form in Groundhog. I'm going to show you how to build a really simple sign-up form for Groundhog, and then I'm going to show you some more advanced techniques as well. I'm going to show you some techniques for improving form conversions. So there's some things you can do with WS Form to make forms a lot more effective, make them easier for people to sign up. And also that in turn will improve form conversion. So I'm going to show you a few techniques with that. I'm also going to show you the Groundhog benchmark as well that we have. That's something that we've recently introduced, and it enables you to, oh, hang on. I don't know how to get rid of Gregory.
Just ignore me. Go ahead. Or you can change the view to speaker view.
Yeah, if you could do that, because
no, you have to do that on your end.
Oh, okay. How do I do that?
Top right of Zoom view, and then my view change to speaker. Or we actually, there we go. I can change it to there's the attendees. So you have to change that at your end.
There we go. Is that better?
Yeah, you look good, Mike.
Yeah, there we go. All right, cool. Someone was just asking to put it on full screen, so there we go. We're learning Zoom as we go along. Okay, so what is WS Form? We were founded in 2018. We're a US-based company. We're a freemium WordPress plugin, which means we have a free version and a pro version. And the free version is available in the WordPress repository, plugin repository, if you want to have a look at that. Otherwise, you can go to wsform.com to download it. We're a no-code, fully responsible form development platform. And what that means is we try and give you as much functionality as possible without the need for doing any code, any JavaScript or PHP or anything like that. We're fully responsive, and that means that the forms that are generated in WS Form can be made responsive for different devices. So mobile devices, tablets, desktop. The form will actually resize itself and adjust the columns for different devices. We have 100+ form templates. We've got 55 different field types, and we have around about 65 different integrations, including Groundhog. So we do actually integrate in with a lot of different platforms, not just Groundhog. So if you're using other solutions out there like Zapier, we can actually integrate in with those. And you can go onto our website and click on add-ons at the top of the page, and it will show you all the different features that we've got. And this video that's playing behind me will come up on the site as well, so you can have a look at that there. Okay, so I'm now going to show you a demo and show you how to do all this in WS Form. So let's go across to here. And what I'm going to show you first of all is, let's just go to Groundhog first. Hopefully most of you are familiar with Groundhog, but if you're not, I just want to quickly show you their custom fields add-on that they have, which enables you to create additional fields for contacts in Groundhog. It's really, really simple. You just create a new tab for Groundhog, and then you can add any number of additional custom fields that you want. The reason I'm showing you this is because WS Form can push content into those custom fields. So if you've got some custom fields, maybe for marketing, maybe for tracking purposes, whatever you may have, you can actually add the custom fields in Groundhog, and then we will then push data into those later on. So I just wanted to show you that before I show you WS Form. So what we're going to do is go into WS Form, and I'm going to click on Add New. And because Groundhog is installed on the site, you'll notice there's a Groundhog tab here. And we have two templates that you can use. We have a bunch of templates in WS Form. So we've got demos for all the different features that we have. You've got e-commerce templates, booking, calculators, contact form templates, but we're concerned today with the Groundhog one. And I'm going to show you how to create just a basic contact first of all. So we're going to click on Use Template on the Add Contact. And this is just a nice little template that you can put on your website. Now, you don't have to have all of these fields that we put in the template. This is fully editable, so you can actually, if you don't want a phone number field, you can get rid of that. You can just delete that field. If you don't want to have a name field even, you could just have an email address if you wanted to. Maybe have like a newsletter sign up. You can make this even smaller. So let me just quickly show you the responsive side that I was talking about. And the reason you want your form to be responsive is when someone's looking at your form on a mobile device, you want to make sure that's nice and easy to read. If someone's looking at it on a desktop, you've obviously got some more room, so you can maybe introduce some columns for that. So at the bottom of the form here, we've got a responsive selector, and this enables you to view the form at different, what we call breakpoints, but you'll see the icons at the bottom here. You've got mobile all the way up to a large desktop. So what I'm going to do is go down to the mobile size, and on the mobile device, we maybe want to make those fields for width, and that'll just make it a lot easier for people to tap on their phones. And then as we go up, let's maybe go to like a laptop size. We can then start introducing columns. So that's a really simple example of making a form responsive. And you'll notice that when I adjust the breakpoint selector at the bottom, it's remembering those field widths. So you can make really, really nice responsive forms with WS Form, as well as introducing columns. You can actually control which columns are present at each breakpoint. You can also break forms into sections as well. So you'll notice here that we have a section at the top. I can actually resize that section as well if I want to, and I can also then copy that, and then you've got two columns, two sections there. You can also introduce tabs to a form as well. So tabs are a nice way of breaking up a form so that the user's not overwhelmed with a huge form if you're building a bigger form. So let me just show you how to create a tab. Pretty simple, just click the tab button at the top of the page. And then what I'll do for now is I'm just going to copy, move this section into that second tab. Let's just move this around a bit just so we can see this happening. And I'll just widen this here. And I'm going to click the preview button at the top so you can see this starting to build up. So I don't know if I can yeah, I can. Here we go. So you'll see there on a narrower screen, we've got full width fields. And then on a wider screen, we've got two columns and we've got two tabs there. Another thing you can do to make forms easier is to introduce what's called conditional logic. And conditional logic can be used to switch areas of a form on and off. So I want to show you that quickly. I'm going to go to a form I've already made, so you have to sit through me building this. So on this form here, what we've got is a first name and last name. Then we have a billing address, and then we've got a shipping address underneath that. If I preview this form, you'll notice that we've got a little checkbox here which enables me to switch on the shipping address. So it's saying, do you have a different shipping address? Yes, it will then show that section. So by default, the form is a lot smaller, and we can introduce additional sections using conditional logic. So I want to show you how you do that quickly. At the top of the page here, we have the conditional logic button. So I'm going to click on that, and here's a condition which controls that functionality. You'll notice that WS Form has highlighted any fields or sections or tabs even that are involved in that conditional logic. So we can say, if the different shipping address checkbox has that row checked, then we'll switch on the visibility of the shipping address. Otherwise, we're going to hide it. It's as simple as that. There's a lot you can do with the conditional logic in WS Form. I'm not going to go through that here. It'll take me all day. But there's all manner of stuff that you can do with conditional logic. You can fire things when the form loads. You can even fire stuff when someone hovers over a field. We've also got examples. I'll just show you this one quickly because we are integrated with WooCommerce as well. And again, this can be tied in with Groundhog too. So you can even push data into Groundhog as a result of an order going through. But if we have a look at this t-shirt demo here, you can see that we're using conditional logic to actually change the color of the text on the t-shirt. So that's actually looking at the hue level, the lightness level of the color that's been chosen, and then changing the word commerce on that t-shirt. So just wanted to show you kind of the extent of what you can do in terms of conditional logic with WS Form. So let's go ahead and we'll just recreate that simple form again. We'll add a contact and we'll preview that form. And at the bottom of the screen here, you'll see that we've got a WS Form debug console. And what this enables you to do when you're developing forms for Groundhog is to really easily populate the form so you can test it. If I hit populate on here, you'll notice the form is filled out automatically for you. So every time you hit populate, you get different data as well. So it's really, really useful for testing, particularly big forms. It's all context sensitive, which means when I hit populate, whatever fields you've got on your form, it's going to put appropriate data into those fields. So if you've got maybe an address field, or if you've got a map field or a color, it's going to put the proper values in. It doesn't just put random data in there. If I then hit submit, contact created, and we go into Groundhog, we'll go to contacts. There is our contact created. And everything is filled in. And I worked with Adrian on this integration, and we made sure that we got pretty much everything that's possible with Groundhog pushed across. So it'll even push things like remote IP address if you've got that enabled. In WS Form, we have a lot of tracking options. So let's just go back into that form we created. And we'll go into the form settings, and we'll click on tracking. You'll see in here I've enabled remote IP. So that data will get moved across into the Groundhog contact. Obviously, in your terms of use, privacy policy on your website, you need to make sure that you're telling people you're capturing that information, but it is possible to do that, and it is possible to move all that information into Groundhog as well. So I just want to show you a couple of other things that you can do with WS Form to make forms easier for people to fill out and hopefully improve conversion ratios. First of all, I wanted to show you the Google address field that we have. So what I'm going to do is go to the section library in WS Form. And in the section library, we have pre-made sections of a form that you can just drag and drop onto the form. So what I'm going to do is just drag a US address field. Now this works with international addresses as well. As you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not originally from the US. So I've made sure that it works with our European friends as well. And this is just a basic address field. So you've got address line 1, address line 2, city, state, and zip. And what I can do is actually remove this address line at the top, go into our fields, and I can add a Google address field. And the cool thing with a Google address field is once you put in your API key, and we have instructions on how to do that, it will auto-complete the other fields based upon the address that you type in. So what I'm going to do is go into that field, and I can now map the different data that we get back from Google to the fields on your form. So we can go address line 1 on that one, city, state, zip code, and we don't need to worry about country because Google doesn't return that. So the nice thing about this field mapper on our Google address field is that we support all of the different fields that Google will return to us when someone types in an address. There's actually quite a few, and it depends on what country you're in and where you're using this as to which fields get mapped. So if you're using this in the UK, I believe that the mappings may be slightly different, but we've given you full control over that so that you can use it in any country. If you want to limit the addresses to a particular country, you can do that by going to the Advanced tab. It actually may not be Advanced tab. I haven't used this in a while. Accessibility, no, it must be an Advanced. Restrictions, yeah, there we go. So under country restrictions, I can actually choose what country I want to do the search under. So if you only want addresses to come back for, say, Germany, you can do that with this system. So I'm going to save and close that and preview it. And I can start typing in an address. And there you go, there it is filled out. So that's the Google address field. That's a nice way of letting people just type in a partial address and then choose the address from the pull down list, and then it will auto fill out the rest of the field for you. When that form is then submitted, obviously you want that data to then go through to Groundhog. So the way we do that is we go to Actions in WS Form, and you'll notice we have an action here, Add to Groundhog. And if you've got an existing form in WS Form, you don't have to use the template. You can just simply add an action and add it to Groundhog through there. So you can do it with existing forms as well. But we'll go into Add to Groundhog, and you'll see here we've got the field mappings. And what the field mappings do is take our fields from our form and map those to the fields in Groundhog. So I could add additional fields here. So like I say, address line 1, And then in Groundhog, I can then put in the address fields that are relevant to the fields on the actual form itself. Let's just have a quick look at the advanced form so you can see how that looks as well. This has a few more features on it. So with this one, we've basically taken all the standard Groundhog fields that you've got and we've pulled them into a form. So on this one, you'll notice you've got company name, job title, company address, full location address. We even support file uploads as well. So if you want people to be able to upload a PDF or an image or any other type of file, you can do that with this. And then we make sure that all of our forms are GDPR compliant as well. So we always make sure we have a checkbox on there that someone has to check in order for that to be submitted. I believe with Groundhog as well, we have a separate setting for terms as well to approve the terms on the form too. The file upload field, there's various features with the file upload field that you can use to make it that even easier to use for the user. So if we preview this field, you'll notice we're actually using a drop zone. Drop zone is a little bit of software that makes drag and drop in files into a form really, really easy. So all the user has to do is either click on here and choose a file, or they can actually drag an image across. So if I take a screenshot, I'll just show you how this works. So I can actually drag that file directly into that drop zone, and it shows a little preview of it. They can remove it if they want to. And that would ultimately then appear in a file field in Groundhog. So that's quite a nice little feature. So let's now have a look at the WS Form benchmark that we have. So in Groundhog, you have funnels. And what funnels enable you to do, if you're not familiar, funnels basically enable you to build a sequence of events that is triggered by a source somewhere. That could be adding a user in WordPress. It could be somebody signing up on a regular form through Groundhog, but you could also use a WS form submission to do that. So if we click on this one that I've already created, I'm going to reorganize this. You'll notice that we have a WS Form Pro benchmark at the top. I'm going to delete that just to show you how that gets added. So let's click on Add Step. And you'll notice WS Form is appearing in Groundhog because we have both plugins installed. So if I click on that, this is basically our starting point now for that funnel. And you can choose which form you want to trigger that benchmark. So you can actually trigger different funnels for different forms that you have on your site. With WS Form, you can have any number of forms that you want. You can have any number of forms on the same page as well. So you could have a newsletter sign up and a contact us form on the same page. Some form plugins don't do that. So you choose the form, and you can actually do multiple forms as well. So if you wanted this to trigger for 2 different forms on your site, you can. And then we have mode here, and there are 2 different modes with WS Form when it comes to someone submitting a form. You can either do when it's actually submitted, so when someone's filled it out and click submit. You can also do it with what we call a save, and that's like a save and continue feature. So if you've got a really large form with multiple tabs, you maybe want somebody to be able to hit the save button so they can come back later. And we have 2 ways of doing that. You can either do it with just a save button on the form, and that will save a cookie on their computer. When they come back, they can continue doing it. If you don't want to use cookies, you can make WS Form 100% cookieless, and it will actually email the user and send them a link. They can click on the link, come back, and then complete their form later on. So you can actually trigger Groundhog to run its funnel benchmark when the form is saved. That can be useful if you want to do anything around form abandonment. Some people want to store some information partially as the form is filled out. Maybe the user hasn't hit submit all the way to the end. You can capture that data beforehand. Again, that's got to be highlighted in any kind of privacy policy. So on this one, we'll just choose submitted. And after that, you're free to do anything that you want with this benchmark. So you can go to actions, you can send an email, you can start your process in Groundhog using that benchmark. It's that simple. So that benchmark is included with our Groundhog add-on. There's nothing additional that you need to do in order to be able to add that.
There is a question that comes in, Mark, that I think is relevant for right now. Michelle asked, can I send info to Groundhog as to who on the team the form was submitted to? I.e., I've sent different team members based on the logic.
Yeah, you can. So you could have like a select drop down on the form, and then that could go in as a custom field on Groundhog, which you could then use later on for creating segments or whatever. So like I said, in Groundhog, you can go into custom fields. You can create any number of custom field tabs as you want. They have various different custom field types. One of those is drop down and radio. These two here are good for selecting a single value. So yeah, you can map any WS form field to these different field types. We support all of them. So you can use that to create any kind of custom data that you want. That would be really easy to do. I can show you how that's done. So let's just, for example, use a select field. On here, by default, a select field is going to have 3 options in it. Now, the way that our select options work, we use what are called data grids. Data grids enable you to put in lists of data from pretty much any source. If you look at the top here on data source, we have the data source off. So that just enables you to add your own rows to this. You can choose which row is selected by default. You can actually disable a row, you can hide a row, you can delete rows here as well. We also support different column mapping as well. So if you want to store a different value in Groundhog from what the user sees, you can actually create another column in here. I'm going to make this wider just so you can see it a bit better. And we could call this value, for example. And maybe in Groundhog, you just want 1, 2, and 3 in the data, rather than what the user sees, option 1, option 2, option 3. Below that, you'll see we have column mapping. And I can choose values, the value column for the value. So that's what's going to get put into Groundhog. And on the labels, I'm choosing label. So you can actually choose which column you want to appear in the value column and which is going to appear in the label column. Under data sources, maybe, we also, one thing I should mention, we have really deep integration with ACF, pods, Metabox, and Toolset as well. So one of the cool things with that is if you've got ACF and you have a bunch of custom fields in ACF, you can instantly create forms from those ACF fields and map those across. And if you've got ACF installed, you can actually pull options from ACF fields into this data grid. Some of the other options that we've got, we have a preset option, and that lets you choose from a bunch of different presets that we've got on our CDN server. So I could, for example, choose countries full, click get data. Here's a country list. You can go further with this. You can actually go to settings here, and I can do an auto op group on that, and I'll maybe do that by region. That will actually then put op groups in based upon this region column here. If I save and close that and preview that, you'll see then we've got a select box that is op grouped all the way through automatically. That's how easy that is. One of the cool things you can do with the data grids as well is if you've got an existing CSV file, maybe a client's giving you a CSV file or you have one on hand that you want to use, you can literally drag and drop that CSV file into this area and it will import it for you. You can also pull data from posts. So if you've got a post type on your site that you want to pull some data from and show that on the form, you can do that as well. You can do post statuses, terms, you can even do a user list as well. So if you want, to your answer, Michelle, if you wanted to have a list of staff members that have a particular role, you could actually list those in a select dropdown. And you can also use a WordPress filter hook. So for the coders out there, if you've got any PHP that you'd want to use to populate a select dropdown, you can use that hook there. All this functionality is available on select fields, radios, and checkboxes as well. It's actually the same kind of concept. So if we go to checkboxes and we edit that field, we go to checkboxes here. I can put in a preset. Let's just choose any one. Let's do continents. Get data. Let's save that. Hit preview, and there's our continents on the form. You can also do some different layout on that. If you find that the top to bottom checkout list is not ideal, then you can actually reorder that and you can say I want that to be in a horizontal fashion. It will put them left to right. There's even a responsive version of that as well, because we're all about responsive forms. So you can actually go to orientation grid, and you can say on extra small, I want them to be full width. On small, I want it to be 6 columns, 4, 3, 2. Hopefully I've got this the right way around. I usually get it the wrong way, but there you go. So that's actually now a responsive grid for those checkboxes. Cool. So hopefully that answers that question. Do we have any other questions at all?
No other questions at this time.
Okay. Let's see what other toys we can play around with while we're waiting for a question. I just want to show you some of the other actions that you can do with this as well. So as well as adding to Groundhog, you can also show messages. You can send emails out. So there's a lot that you can do on the back end of a form as well to introduce additional functionality with your form. Okay, so we've done tabs, we've done sections, we've done some conditional logic, we've done the Google address field. I just want to show you as well the transform function on the fields as well. This can be useful to just make it easier for people to type stuff in and also improve the data that you have in Groundhog. So you can do things like sentence case or first name, capitalization, lowercase, whatever you want to do. So on a first name field, one of the things you can do is you can actually force it so when somebody's typing data in, that the characters that are typed in are kept in a certain case. And that's done with the transform feature here. So on a first name field, we can do sentence case, for example, and hit save. And this can be really useful for when you've got a mailing list and you don't want data to be, uppercase, lowercase when people are typing stuff in. So if we preview this, go to first name. If I just type everything in lowercase, you'll notice that it's actually made the first letter uppercase for the user. So that can just make it a bit easier for the user to type stuff in. If they, if they're not typing in uppercase, lowercase, and you want the data in that format, then you can actually force that on the form as well. Okay.
We do have a couple of other questions right now, Mike, if this is a good point.
Sure.
Michelle also asked if we wanted to bring info into Groundhog from a form that existed before we connected to Groundhog. Is there a way we can get that information in there somehow?
Yes, there is. Yeah. So the form population is possible through our populate using action. So I'll show you how to do that. Let's just create a basic form for now. Okay, so we'll go into form settings and we'll go to data and we'll do populate using action. Okay, so you can populate forms with any kind of pre-formatted data. Again, that's another good way of making forms to be easier to fill out. So the more that you can put on the form initially, such as like country drop-downs, state drop-downs, anything like that will improve conversion rates on the form. Michelle's question is about if you've got an existing user, can we pre-populate the form with their information? And yes, you can. So what you would do is you go to form settings, and then we go to data, and then under field mapping, you can then map the data from Groundhog to the fields on the form. Now, the way this works is the user would have to be logged into WordPress, or logged into your site, basically. So as long as the user's logged in, we basically assume that email address has been validated, and therefore we can pull that data from Groundhog and then pre-populate the form with that data. So yes, that is possible.
There was another question from Ruben who asked, does the order of actions matter? For example, does it matter if I redirect first and then have an action following that to send an email, or any other action?
Okay, so with the actions, you can order those here, as you've probably seen. What we do behind the scenes is make sure that generally those actions run in the correct order. So even if you put add to Groundhog at the end and you have a redirect, it will actually run the Groundhog action first. The reason we have the ordering is, for example, like the show message action. You can actually show multiple show messages, or you can show multiple messages on the form in sequence. So you can reorder those, but it doesn't really matter what order you put them in the action, because we have an ordering system behind the scenes that does that automatically for you. So you don't really need to worry about that.
Michelle had a continuing question on hers, and then we'll let you continue what else you had. She asked, and also those entries that pre-exist the Groundhog condition, can I download those and upload to Groundhog?
Entries that pre-exist the Groundhog, can I download those? No, not with our plugin. No, that I'm sure Adrian would be able to answer that question, but I'm pretty sure that I mean we can't take data from our submissions and push those into Groundhog. No.
Speaking of Adrian,
there he is. Adrian, did you hear the question that was just asked?
And like Beetlejuice.
no, Mark, he did not. He just came in.
Yeah, so we have somebody asking about whether if you've got existing entries, is there any way of like getting a CSV file of entries into Groundhog of contacts? So if I had a CSV file of like first name, last name, address, zip, could that be imported into the Groundhog contacts?
100%, absolutely. Yeah, okay. No question. Yeah.
So one way you could do that, Michelle, if you had, say, a form with 200 submissions in it already, and then you added Groundhog later on, you could export that from our submissions page as a CSV file, and then import that into Groundhog using the way that Adrian's describing.
And Zane had a question about using licensing. Do you have to have, what sort of license do you have to have with WS Form to use it with Groundhog?
So we have 3 different license levels. There's a personal and a freelance and an agency. In order to use the Groundhog, if you're using the personal or the freelance version, the freelance is for 5 sites, the personal is for 1 site, then you can just buy the Groundhog add-on separately. If you've got the agency license, which is multiple, any number of site licenses that you want, that actually includes Groundhog as well. So the agency one includes Groundhog, and it's for unlimited sites. So that's the best deal one. I mean, it has everything in it. It has all of our add-ons, and it's available for unlimited sites.
And it truly is a deal at a ridiculously inexpensive price point, which Mark refuses to listen to me when I tell him that it's not expensive enough and that he should be charging double what he is.
I know. You were telling me this a year ago and I still haven't listened.
But he's incredibly stubborn, and maybe he just doesn't believe me. I don't know what it is. But it is just a downright total steal. So even at their top license, the agency license, it's only this is the same amount as our basic license. So I mean,
yeah,
brilliant software though.
Yeah, and then
is it stubbornness or just generosity? Says Michelle, and maybe it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I think you're right. I just I still haven't got over that hurdle yet, Adrian. So when I get the balls to do it, I'll definitely get it done. And then to add to that, we're also giving 25% off. I just changed the typo on there, so that had the first 25% of signups. But yeah, the first 25 people that sign up as a result of this are also going to get 25% off.